everybody. I am Donna Campbell with the Los Angeles Tribune, and our guest today is Dr. John Demartini. Now, he is a human behavior specialist, and we are so excited to have him here today on our Inside Influencer podcast. Welcome, Dr. John Demartini.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yes. So, a human behavior specialist. Now, you said that you have been in this field for 52 years. Was it something that has always fascinated you? Did you accidentally find it? Were you drawn to it? How does one become a human behavior specialist?
When I was 17 years old, I had a close brush with nearly dying. I was led to a little class that a gentleman was speaking. In one night, in 1 hour, one man with one message, and inspired me to believe that I could someday become intelligent. I was told in first grade that I would never be able to read or write or communicate effectively, probably not go very far in life, not to amount to much. I had a speech impediment and a learning difficulty. And this one man one night made me think that maybe I could overcome that. And my life changed the night I met him. And it was the first time in my life that I believed that I could someday become intelligent enough to read and write and speak. And so I went on a journey to overcome my challenges. I was going to a speech pathologist by the time I was 1.5 years old because I had problems speaking. And I worked really diligently, incredibly diligently, to be able to eventually be able to read and be able to speak properly, etc. And that's how it started. And that led me to study physiology and psychology and philosophy and theology and many different fields. And anything to do with maximizing human potential, human awareness, helping people master their lives. By the time I was 18, I wanted to study anything and everything I could get my hands on that might give people an advantage to do something extraordinary with their life. I wanted to do something extraordinary in my life. I want to exemplify what's possible in life. And so that was the journey that started back 17, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about doing something extraordinary in your life, now from a young age, you took on a limiting belief that came from somebody else. And to overcome that is extraordinary in itself, because you changed your mindset, your belief system to become who you are today. So since that time, what is some of the most extraordinary things that you have found yourself doing?
Well, I first had to go back. I dropped out of school. I first had to get a GED, high school equivalency, to return to education. And I couldn't read half the questions, and the way I passed that test was guessing. The gentleman that I met that night told me, when I told him that I had learning problems and speaking problems, etc., and I told him that I wanted to be a teacher and become intelligent someday, he said, I want you to say this one statement to yourself every day and never miss a day for the rest of your life. Say, I am a genius and I apply my wisdom. I started saying that, and I've never missed a day. I don't get up out of bed without that going through my head. I didn't know what that really meant. But when I eventually left Hawaii and moved back to Texas to see my parents, because I'd been a street kid, I asked my mom, what exactly is a genius? And she said, well, it's people like Albert Einstein and Da Vinci. And I said, well, then get me everything you can on those two characters. I want to start studying and learning about these two people. And so I devoured everything I could find on those characters and tried to inculcate that. But I realized I had a limited vocabulary. So in order to do that, I had to go into a dictionary, and I started memorizing 30 words a day in a dictionary and write them 20 times, spell them 20 times, speak them 20 times, and just use them in a sentence 20 times to get meaning out of it until my vocabulary grew to 30 words a day At the end of a couple of years, I had 20,000 words in my head. And I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class. It was work, but it was really powerful. And I learned how to read, and I learned how to write, and I learned how to speak. And it was a nonstop persistence on that. Albert Einstein said that persistence is one of the keys of greatness. And he said, in the greatest teacher's exemplification. So I wanted to exemplify what was possible and live an extraordinary life as a teaching. Because I felt that if I could do that, anybody could do that. So that was the starting point. And I've never stopped. I read every day, I write every day, I speak every day, I grow my vocabulary every day, and I've just been working on it 52 years. Human behavior. Healing, teaching, I wanted to be a teacher, healer, and philosopher. Those are the three things I wanted to do. I wanted to be an Aristotle and Plato of the 21st century. I wanted to be a teacher that traveled to every country on the face of the earth and share my research with people. And I wanted to be involved in the healing arts. So I studied everything on physiology, inside and out. I had a three-dimensional holographic idea of physiology. I taught physiology, I taught neurology, I taught all those things.
You are a genius and apply your wisdom. That is an incredibly powerful statement. So when you think about that, and then doing the impossible things, yes, learning, overcoming disabilities, what are some of the impossible things that you never thought were possible in your life that you have done?
Well, I can't say there's really much more than those basics that I didn't think I was going to be able to read effectively. I didn't really read till I was 18. I didn't think I was going to be able to speak properly, and I slowly but surely got that pretty articulate today. I want to travel. I've traveled now 21 million miles on flights and 2 million miles almost in just sailing. And so I wanted to go to every country, which still some countries left, but I'm working on it. And travel. Everything the teacher said I would not be able to do turned out to be the things that I tend to do. So I want to mount something, so I'm multiple financially independent and making a difference. They say I probably won't, go very far in life, accomplish much. I wanted to know that you could do something, and so I've tried to work at trying to be of service, and so that's what I do. I mean, I teach, research, write, and travel. That's what I love doing. Those are the things I was told I would never do.
What would you say, or what would you share with someone when they think, oh, this is impossible, or I can't, or because you've overcome a lot of challenges in your life, what would you say to somebody who is that self-doubter?
Well, if you argue for your limitations, they'll be yours. If you give yourself permission to do the action steps to give you the direction of where you want to go and go in the direction you want to do, how can you not get it? It's really, I don't know if there's limitations on what human beings can do. We're not going to just jump in the air and take off flying probably, but we could get a device together and get a drone together and we can fly. Mm-hmm. So I really don't know what the limits of the human being are, but I do know that if you prioritize your actions and you take actions every single day towards your objective, you get closer to your objective than when you were the day before. And if you don't stop, you're going to get there. And even if you shoot for the stars and get to the moon, you still accomplish more than what you would have done if you hadn't taken action on it. And I really don't believe there's anything that your mortal, the immortal people around you and your mortal body is limited by is going to stop you from an immortal dream. If you have a dream that's big enough and strong enough, when the why is big enough, the house take care of themselves. You find a way of doing it. You just got to have a big enough reason. Just like Elon Musk, most people aren't going to believe they can go to Mars, but he does, so he's working on it, and he's getting there. In 1987, I tried to be a special missions astronaut at NASA for biological research in space. And at the time, there was a tickler at the top of the Mission Control Center where they was working on how do we get to Mars in 200 years. Mm-hmm. And NASA's vision was 200 years in 1987. One guy comes along with a clear vision and keeps surrounding himself with the top engineers and come up with more creative ideas and has surpassed that and is now going to do something that they thought was crazy. And I believe that we can do amazing things. I've been blessed to teach for all these years, and I've seen students that have done extraordinary things, I mean absolutely extraordinary things, who gave themselves permission to do it and to start applying the principles that stand the test of time towards achievement. You know, if you have a really clear mission about what you want to do and you're really, really concise and clear about what you're going to do, and you use your executive center and strategically plan out actions that can do it and continually refine that as you go with you gain new information, and you persistently take actions towards it, and you see it in your mind's eye, and you internally dialogue it and feel it, and you take actions on it, and you look at and you error correct and metric your feedback as you go and keep refining it. You're every day you're moving one step closer to that objective. I don't know how you can not get what you want if you just keep doing that. And some of those goals, if they're in your time frame of life, then you'll do it within your life. If not, you may set up a cascade of other people that will carry it on, and it may be something beyond your life. There's nothing wrong with getting things done through other people. Mm-hmm. And if you delegate to other people who are great at what they do, that help you on it, you can speed up the process. Time times intensity gives results. The more intensely you focus and take actions on something, the less time it takes to get the result. So I'm hopefully exemplifying that for the people to the best of my ability, and that was my dream. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me you can't live your dream, because you can. I went on a TV show back probably 20 years ago or so, when I came out with a book called You Can Have an Amazing Life in Just 60 Days. Mm-hmm. And I came from behind a curtain, came out and sat on a couch, and there was a person interviewing me. And the first question the interviewer said, he said, well, Dr. Demartini, I see you have a new book out. You can have an amazing life in just 60 days. He says, you don't really believe that, do you? Isn't that kind of hype? Is that some American thing? Because this is a foreign country. You don't really expect people to do it. Most people don't change their life. They just do things, and they have habits, and they're usually spectators of life. And he went on to doing this. And I was not anticipating that question. I was prepared for it, but I wasn't anticipating it. And as he was speaking, I just stared at him, and I looked right between his eyes. And finally, my response was, sir, it'd be impossible to convince me you can't live an extraordinary life, an amazing life in 60 days. It'd be impossible to convince me you can't do that. Sir, my life changed in 60 minutes. So if you apply the principles that'll stand the test of time, you'll stand the test of time. And that's what I'm attempting to put in the book. Just principles that are solid, that you can rely on. You know, that was my dream. I didn't want to just put something out there that was, commercial. I wanted to put something out there that you could stand the test of time on. I wanted to study universal laws that will apply no matter where you are, when you are, unviolatable laws, and put those into action to make achievement in life and mastery in life. And I believe you can do that. And I've seen thousands and thousands of people who apply them get results. So by the time we were through with that show, he was telling people, get the book. He was a skeptic initially, but I always say, as somebody who's really, really authentic and sincere and dedicated and exemplifying what's possible, has a way of transforming the people's lives who are skeptical and doubtful and uncertain. Whoever has the most certainty wins the game. And I think that if you're living authentically according to what you value most, you wake up an objective, certain, grateful, loving, inspired, enthused, present state that becomes unstoppable in achievement. And the people I know that have done extraordinary things, that's what they've exemplified. It was Peter Lynch, who wrote One Up on Wall Street back in the 90s, who they asked him, how do you select stocks in an interview? And he says, I do my technical and quantitative analysis on the stocks, and then once I've narrowed it down to a few stocks, I get on my jet and I fly over to the headquarters of these companies and got a feel for the company. And he says, I walk around and I'm looking for something when I'm going to the company. He says, if I walk around and I meet the people in the company and they're grateful for their job, they love what they're doing, they're inspired by the vision, and they're enthusiastically working, they're certain about their skill, and they're present while they do it, I know this company is appreciating and value, and I know to invest in it. Because people who are authentic and are doing what they love cannot be stopped in achievement. And that's an observation I've made, and I've seen it in my own life and thousands of other people's lives. So I can't not share that with people. You know, if you were to walk on a desert somewhere and you came across this giant diamond and you picked up this diamond and you went, whoa, you know, this is a masterpiece, a gem. What would you do with it? Would you hide it in a museum and make people look at it? Would you put it in a vault to protect it? Or would you share it with people? You know, and that's the way I feel. I feel like I've been gathering gems for 52 years, and it'd be impossible not to share that with people, because what good it would be if it's just inside me and it's not out there in the world? What would be good if they didn't get to experience it? So that's the way I feel about the work that I do. I feel like it's a gem that I've been standing on the shoulders of giants, as Sir Isaac Newton did when he was studying the calculus and his Principia. And I've been gathering information from the greatest minds and greatest ideas and leaders in the world. Why not share that with people? Why not make that a way of life? Why not exemplify it and put it into operation and see the results and demonstrate it and give people permission, for them to give themselves permission to do something with their life that they want to make a difference in? I was at a prison, Krugersdorp prison in South Africa, speaking to 1,000 inmates in maximum security, 3 stories underground. These are the 25-year to life sentences. And I came in there with 6 guards, the warden of the prison, my publicist, and my director, and Al Jazeera television crew. They were coming in to film what I was about to do. And I had to go in between this crowd of all these orange uniforms and stand up on this little stool about 1 foot high, so they could see me, because a lot of the people were taller than I was. They wouldn't be able to see me in the crowd. So I stood on the stool and just pivoted around on the stool, and I was doing a presentation, and the first question I asked him, I said, how many of you deep inside, no matter what you've been through, what you've gone through, what you're experiencing, how many of you have a yearning to want to make a difference in the world? Spontaneously, 1,000 hands went up. Wow. Innately, we want to make a difference. And we can't make a difference conforming and fitting in to everybody else. We make a difference by being unique to ourselves and standing out and following the inner drum, you might say, inside us that beats. And it was interesting, because most people are trying to compare themselves to other people, and they're minimizing themselves to people they put on pedestals, and they're spectators of life instead of participants in life. And they get addicted to outer heroes instead of wake up the hero within. And they hold themselves back because of the comparison, instead of comparing their actions on a daily basis to what they really dream about and seeing how congruent are they to their real dream. And if they do that, there's a mastery that comes about, and there's a real momentum building achievement energy that comes about. And all of a sudden you're grateful for your life because you're following it. You're doing what you love. You're inspired by the vision. You're enthusiastically working, and you're certain about where you're going, and you're present with it because you're not being distracted. And you become unstoppable in achieving. And I've seen young people get that clarity and do extraordinary things by the time they're teens. Run multi-million-dollar businesses, end up on movies. And I mean, I've seen amazing things happen when people apply it. I've also seen people in their 70s that have retired and stopped and came to one of my programs, the Breakthrough Experience, and got alive again. They had retired and they were giving up on things and they were decaying, and all of a sudden they got on fire and they started a new company in their 70s and went on to do amazing things. So I think inside us there's a child inside everyone that filled with energy waiting to come to the surface, and to the degree of our congruency and the degree of authenticity, it awakens. And there's a dormant genius in everyone. And giving ourselves permission to let that out is what I love doing. And trying to give them the tools on how to bring that to the world.
So when you talk about the different stories and everyone's raising their hand to saying, yes, I want to make a difference in life, but if they don't know how, what would be the top 3 things you would suggest to someone to make a difference in their life, the lives of others, and align with their purpose?
The first thing is identify what is really, really, truly, truly priority and meaning to them. What is really most important? Because that's clouded in most people. I've been doing value determinations for 46 years. I've taken hundreds of thousands of people through that process of what exactly is it that you really are really committed to. Majority of people lie to themselves about what it is. If you ask, I'll give you an example. I was in South Africa, 2012, speaking at the Success Summit. I was the opening speaker, Richard Branson was the last speaker, and a whole bunch of speakers in between. And I come on the stage and I said, how many of you want to be financially independent? And 5,000 people put their hands up, and some people put the other hand up, and some people put their leg in the air. I said, fantastic, there's a roar in the place. I said, how many of you are financially independent, where your passive income is exceeding your active income right now? All the hands went down except 7. 7 out of 5,000 people. I said, isn't that interesting that we all say we want to be financially independent, but only 7 of us are claiming it? And this is a success. So this is a unique group of people here that people are dedicated to achieving. I said, isn't it interesting? I said, would you like to know why that number is so low? I said, because the hierarchy of your values dictates your destiny. And what your values, what you think is important to you, may not be. So we're going to do a little experiment. We're going to take a piece of paper. We're going to have you write down the 10 things that you would do if I gave you $10 million US. If I gave you $10 million, what would you do if you had 60 seconds to decide what you were going to do with the $10 million, the 10 things you're going to do? On your mark, get set, go. And they quickly wrote down what they were going to do with $10 million, which was a lot to some of the people in South Africa because of the rand's inflation. And they quickly wrote out what they would do. And then I had them give it to the person next to them, and then the person was to assess how much of that $10 million is still left as an asset that still is producing, and how much was spent on consumables that depreciate in value.
Oh, wow.
And I had them go through there, and they did it. And between 20 and 80% of the $10 million was spent in 1 minute on consumables that depreciated in value that they would be working further for, and it was lifestyle. I said, now, if you have 80% of your money going to consumerism and going to buy things that go down in value, financial independence isn't going to happen for you.
No, it's not.
Not with those set of values. Your hierarchy of values dictate your financial destiny. And I said, now, how many of you actually took your money and bought assets with it? And there's about 7 people in the room. Everybody was going, I want to buy that house, I want to buy that car, I want to go on that trip, I'm going to get those clothes. They were comparing themselves to other people. They were living vicariously through the fantasies of these lifestyles that they think other people have that are sometimes in debt. And they didn't know the difference between an asset and liability and something that went down and up in value. And so I said, as long as you're doing that and you're not putting it into something that's asset growing, you're not going to have financial independence. You're going to be working your life as a slave for money, buying things that go down in value, and cluttering your house, which will be another debt, and paying for cars and paying for things instead of investing in money where it's working for you, and then it's buying you those things because it's now passive income. And the whole room was quiet and silent, and they all went, I said, the hierarchy of your values dictates your financial destiny. The hierarchy of your values, in fact, affects every area of your life. If you don't know what your values are and you think it's important to you, but it's not, you'll be going after something that's not really priority. So we got 2 choices here. Either set goals that match your values and be fulfilled, or change your values to match your goals to say what you say you want. But if you want to be financially independent, we're going to make a decision right now. We're going to show you how to do both of those things and start moving in the direction of that. And then there's action steps that are going to be required to build wealth. And that's going to be deferred gratification, to defer immediate gratification of things for letting your money work for you incrementally until compound interest makes you wealthy. And I got that across to them, and it was a mind change for everybody in the room. But most people lived in the fantasy that they want to be wealthy, but they really wanted to spend their money and buy things instead of having money work for them.
Wow. Well, that is a great principle to learn, because oftentimes we are spending our money on consumables rather than the investments to have your money work for you and with you. Now, you were one of the original cast members on The Secret,
Yes.
which was about 20 years ago. What would you say today is the number one thing that you have learned since the filming of The Secret?
That this number one secret behind The Secret, left out of The Secret, was don't waste your time on things that aren't really priority. To stick to the things that really, really, really matter. And to give yourself permission to be authentic to you and not live in a fantasy. Don't set up unrealistic expectations. Anytime you expect to live outside your real true values, anytime you expect others to do that, anytime you're expecting fantasies of one-sided outcomes without both sides, there's always a pair of opposites in life, you're going to self-defeat. But if you set real goals with real time frames that have real strategies and real action steps that are truly deeply meaningful to you, that are so important to you that your why is big enough that the hows take care of themselves, and you're willing to go and learn, study, raid, whatever it takes to get the outcome, you're going to do a great thing and achieve amazing things. You're also going to become more philanthropic. You're going to be, because it's inspiring to demonstrate that, and you're going to want to share that with other people, and you're going to have an impact. And when you're philanthropic and doing a service to people, you end up getting more rewards in life. So yeah, that's the number one secret left out of The Secret, was don't waste your time on things that aren't really, truly important. Your brain will help you achieve more if you're really authentic with your life. Why be somebody you're not when you can be somebody you really are?
So with that, what are your top priorities in life?
Well, if you look at what my life demonstrates, because your life demonstrates your values, all you got to do is look at the person's life. If you looked at mine and put a drone over me and you watched me 24 hours a day, you would find out that I teach, research, write, and travel. That's it. I'm pretty well useless outside that. I've learned that to delegate anything outside that. I haven't driven a car in 35 years. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I learned a long time ago, anything that requires external motivation to get me to do something, I delegate it to people who are inspired intrinsically to do it. And surround myself with those people so they liberate me from those lowering, self-worth lowering actions, and get on to what I do best, and do it in a way that serves other people, so you're remunerated and getting paid to pay for the delegations and be rewarded financially. So I just stick to what I do best: teach, research, write, and travel.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Before we close here, if you could just share what's on your heart to the audience, what would you like to say?
Well, whoever's listening out there, the magnificence of who you truly are is far greater than any fantasies you might impose on yourself by the comparison to others. So don't try to live in the shadows of anyone. Live on the shoulders of giants by realizing whatever you see that you admire in other people, you already have. It's not missing. At the level of your authentic self, there's nothing missing. At the level of your inauthentic self, you're going to think things are missing, and you're going to want to compare yourself to others and think, I need to be like somebody else. Nobody has to be like somebody else. The magnificence of who you are is where you want to go. And just know this: if you take the time to prioritize your life and stick to the top priorities, that's the most any human being can do to maximize their potential in life. So prioritize your life, delegate lower priority things, give yourself permission to shine, not shrink, to radiate, not gravitate, and to do something extraordinary and not ordinary.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. And of course, you heard it here first from Dr. John Demartini. You said prioritize and
Delegate.
delegate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.